You keep going, but something feels off. Maybe your days look full on the outside, yet inside there's this quiet sense that you're only scratching the surface of who you could be. You show up, you handle responsibilities, you do what's expected. But there's a part of you that feels untouched, almost forgotten, and you haven't really said this out loud. But sometimes you wonder if you're slowly drifting through a life that was meant to be more alive, more aligned, more you. Do you feel like you have unused potential sitting inside you? Not in a loud, obvious way, but subtle, persistent, like a thought that keeps returning when everything gets quiet, telling you there's something more you're supposed to step into. And the hardest part is this: nothing is technically wrong. Your life might even look fine to other people, but deep down, there's a disconnect. Like you're living near your purpose, not in it, carrying a quiet frustration that you can't fully explain, because on paper everything should feel okay. Yet internally something feels underused, unseen, unactivated. That's the real tragedy. Not failure, not struggle, but living with something powerful inside you that never gets expressed. And over time, that buried potential doesn't just disappear. It turns into restlessness, into overthinking, into that subtle heaviness you carry for no clear reason. Maybe that's what you've been feeling. Not lost, just not fully awake. And right here, in this moment, I want you to consider something gently. What if that feeling isn't a problem, but a signal? A sign that something inside you is ready to come alive. You are not random. Maybe part of you has started to believe that your life is just a series of reactions, circumstances, responsibilities, things you had to deal with. But underneath all of that, there is a design, intentional, specific, and deeply personal to you. Nothing about you was placed by accident. Not your sensitivity, not your way of thinking, even the things you've questioned about yourself. The parts you've tried to hide or fix, they carry clues about how you were created to move through this world in a way that only you can. Because your design isn't just about what you're good at. It's about what moves you, what stirs something in your chest, even when you try to ignore it. What you notice that others don't. What quietly matters to you more than it seems to matter to everyone else. Even if you've never fully understood why. That's not random. That's alignment. And maybe you've been comparing yourself, wondering why your path doesn't look like someone else's, why your pace feels different, why your interests don't quite fit into what people expect. But your calling was never meant to be copied. It was meant to be uncovered. God didn't create you to blend in. He created you with intention, with detail, with a kind of spiritual fingerprint that carries both your gifts and your direction, even when you can't fully see it yet. And here's something important. Your purpose is not hiding from you. It's woven into you, into your patterns, your desires, your questions, even into the tension you feel when you're doing something that doesn't truly fit. Like your spirit is gently resisting a life that isn't fully aligned with who you were created to be, quietly pulling you back towards something more honest, more alive, more true. So instead of asking, "What should I do with my life?" try asking, "What in me is already trying to speak?" Because the beginning of clarity isn't out there somewhere. It starts within you. Some parts of your story still hurt. Not everything you've been through makes sense. And maybe there are moments you wish you could erase, seasons that drained you, situations that left you questioning your worth or your direction. You've carried things quietly, learned to function through them, but they didn't just disappear. And maybe you've wondered, what was the point of all that? Because it didn't feel purposeful, felt heavy. But what if your struggles didn't come to stop you, but to shape you? Not in a forced or harsh way, but in a way that formed depth inside you. Because the things that broke your comfort often built your awareness. The moments that stretched you emotionally quietly expanded your capacity to understand, to feel, to connect in ways that someone without your story simply couldn't. That matters more than you think, because your calling is not built from perfection. It's built from transformation. The empathy you carry came from somewhere. The sensitivity you feel was developed through something. And even the questions you still wrestle with are part of a deeper alignment that is forming, slowly but intentionally, preparing you for a kind of purpose that isn't surface level, but rooted in real experience, in real healing, in something that actually reaches people where they are. You didn't go through all of that for nothing, even if it felt meaningless at the time, even if it still feels unresolved. God doesn't waste pain. He repurposes it, gently, over time. And maybe right now, you can't fully see how your past connects to your purpose. But there are threads already forming between what you've lived, what you've learned, and what you're beginning to feel called toward, even if it's still unclear, even if it feels small, even if you're not fully ready to name it yet. So instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" try asking, "What did this build inside me that I can now give?" Because sometimes your calling is hidden inside the very thing you thought was holding you back. It doesn't always start with something dramatic. Sometimes the shift begins in an ordinary moment, a quiet nudge, a thought you almost ignore, a feeling that something small matters more than it should. You don't hear thunder. You don't see signs, just a stirring. And maybe you've been waiting for clarity to arrive loudly, for a perfect moment, for undeniable confirmation. But awakening rarely looks like that. It often begins in the middle of your normal life. There's a moment in the story of Moses where nothing seems extraordinary at first. He's not leading people yet. He's not stepping into purpose. He's just going through a regular day. And that's when it happens. Not in a palace, not in a position of power, but in the middle of the mundane. Something catches his attention. Something different. Something he could have easily walked past. But he didn't. He turned aside. And that's the part people miss. The awakening didn't begin with the fire. It began with his attention. Maybe your moment looks like that. A conversation that lingers longer than expected. An idea that keeps returning. A pull toward something you can't fully explain. Small things, but they don't feel small to you, because that's how the fire begins. Not as a blaze, but as awareness. And here's the tension: you might feel both drawn and unsure at the same time. Part of you is curious, and another part of you hesitates, wondering if you're ready, if you're capable, if this even makes sense. Yet something inside you keeps leaning forward, quietly asking you not to ignore it this time. That's not confusion. That's activation. The fire within you doesn't need perfection to start. It just needs your attention, your willingness to pause, to notice, to respond. Because the moment you stop dismissing what you feel is the moment something begins to shift. So gently right now, what is something in your life that you've been noticing but avoiding? That might be where the fire is waiting. You don't need to figure everything out today, because purpose isn't something you suddenly find. It's something you begin to recognize, step by step, as you move into deeper alignment with who you already are becoming. It unfolds, quietly, consistently, so instead of searching harder, I want to guide you through something simpler, a way to notice what's already there. Let's begin here. Pay attention to what gives you energy, not what impresses people, not what looks good on paper, but what actually fills you. Even if it's small, even if it doesn't make sense yet, even if you've dismissed it because it didn't seem practical, those moments where you feel more present, more engaged, more like yourself without forcing it, that's a clue. Now notice what drains you, because misalignment has a feeling, feels heavy, forced, and the more honest you become about what consistently pulls you out of peace, the clearer your direction starts to become, not through pressure, but through awareness of where your spirit naturally resists and where it begins to open. That's another clue. Next, look at what you keep returning to. Ideas, topics, conversations, the things you think about when no one is asking you to, the things that stay with you longer than they should, that gently follow you through your day. Even when you try to focus on something else, there's a pattern there, and patterns reveal direction when you're willing to notice them without judgment. And here's something deeper. What do people come to you for? Advice, support, perspective, even casually, even without a title. There are ways you already show up in other people's lives that reflect something natural in you, something trusted, something that flows without effort, something that may already be part of how you're meant to impact others. That's not coincidence. That's design. So let's bring this into a simple moment. I want you to type this. Slowly, intentionally, I am stepping into alignment. Let that sit with you, because alignment isn't about becoming someone else. It's about returning to what's already true. And as you begin to notice these patterns, what energizes you, what drains you, what keeps calling you back, and how you naturally show up for others, you're not just gaining clarity, you're opening doors, quietly positioning yourself for a kind of breakthrough that doesn't come from pressure, but from being in the right place internally, where peace, direction, and purpose begin to meet. This is how it starts. Not all at once, but clearly enough. And something in you already knows. Just breathe for a moment. You don't have to rush this. You don't have to perform. You don't even have to have the right words. Just be here, as you are, with everything you're carrying, clear or unclear, steady or uncertain. God is not waiting for a perfect version of you. He's here with the real you. So if you can gently close your eyes, or just soften your focus, and let's begin. God, I don't have everything figured out. There are parts of me that feel unsure, parts that feel tired, and parts that feel like they've been waiting for something to shift, even if I couldn't fully name it. I've been moving through life, doing what I can, but deep down, I know there's more, and I don't want to keep ignoring that quiet pull inside me anymore. So I'm here, not with perfection, but with honesty. God, if there is something in me that you've placed, something meaningful, something purposeful, something that I've overlooked or doubted, I'm asking you to gently bring it into the light. Not all at once, not in a way that overwhelms me, but in a way that I can recognize, receive, and trust. Help me slow down enough to notice, because my mind gets loud, my thoughts get tangled, and sometimes I can't tell the difference between fear and direction. So bring clarity, not just in big answers, but in small, steady awareness. God, I release the pressure I've been carrying. the pressure to figure it all out, the pressure to be certain, the pressure to become something quickly, instead of allowing myself to grow into who I'm already being shaped to be, step by step, moment by moment, without forcing a timeline that was never meant to be rushed. I let that go, and in its place, I receive peace, a quiet kind of peace, the kind that doesn't need everything to make sense, the kind that reminds me I'm not behind, I'm not forgotten, and I'm not walking through this alone, even when it feels like I am. God, align me, align my thoughts, my desires, my steps. If there are doors meant for me, open them. If there are things I need to release, help me let go. And if there is a fire inside me that I've been ignoring, give me the courage to face it, to tend to it, to trust it, even if it starts small, even if it feels unfamiliar, because I don't want to live disconnected from who I was created to be. I don't want to keep circling the same patterns, the same doubts, the same hesitation that keeps me close to purpose, but never fully stepping into it. I'm ready, in my own way, so meet me here, in this moment, in this breath, and begin something new inside me, something steady, something real, something rooted in you, where I don't have to force a breakthrough, but instead I begin to feel a natural shift, a quiet alignment, a sense that something is opening, something is softening, something is finally moving in the direction it was always meant to go. Thank you for staying with me, even when I didn't notice, even when I doubted, even now. Amen. You don't need a perfect plan, because the shift you're feeling right now, it doesn't come from having everything mapped out. It comes from movement, small, honest movement in the direction that already feels a little more aligned, a little more true. And maybe part of you is still waiting, waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel certain. But clarity doesn't come before the step, it comes through it. So instead of asking, "What's my whole purpose?" ask something simpler. What is one step I can take today that feels aligned? Just one. It might be small. It might even feel insignificant. But if it carries a sense of peace, a quiet sense of rightness, that's not random. That's direction beginning to form, gently guiding you forward without pressure, without noise, just a steady pull towards something that's opening for you. This is how doors open, not all at once, but one decision at a time. And here's something important. That step you take today, it matters more than you think, because action creates momentum. Momentum creates clarity, and clarity creates confidence. Not loud confidence, but grounded confidence, the kind that feels like alignment. So right now, let's anchor this. Type this slowly, intentionally. I am stepping into my purpose with peace. Let that land, because you're not forcing anything. You're responding. And as you begin to take that first step, however small it looks, you may start to notice something shifting inside you, a sense of movement, of energy, of quiet breakthrough. Like something that once felt stuck is beginning to flow again, like doors you couldn't see before are starting to open, not all at once, but enough for you to move forward with trust instead of hesitation. You don't have to rush. You don't have to prove anything. Just take the step and trust this. God is already meeting you there. If this moment spoke to you, stay with it, subscribe, and continue walking this path, one step at a time.